Hey, sweet people. Um, haven't done a video in a while. Yes, I'm growing a beard. And yes, this is a Star Wars shirt. I want to talk about signs. Like, what do the great spiritual teachers say about looking for signs? When we pray, we tend to have this idea that God will answer. Um, and the answer sometimes is no. Or the answer is sometimes this is going to show up, but not in the form you expect. We don't assume that the answer is going to be what we're looking for. What about signs? Why do we, when we pray for a sign, why do we assume that the next thing that comes must be the answer? And guess what? It turns out that if you look at what the great spiritual teachers have to say about this, it's very interesting, because what Buddha has to say about looking for signs is nothing. He never, ever, ever brought it up. Buddha doesn't make any recommendation about how to look for signs intelligently, or how to look for signs, how to make mistakes looking for signs. He doesn't say anything about it. Lao Tzu, nothing about looking for signs. Jesus actually does, in a few places, have some kind of a mention of what it looks like when you look for a sign. One of them is in his temptation in the desert. Another one is when he's talking about, people were looking for signs, and the only sign they're going to be given is the sign of Noah. Long story short, he only mentions it a couple times, and both times with disdain. Like, he treats it as if looking for signs is a lack of faith. I'm not saying, people, that it's terrible when you look for a sign. I'm just saying it might have to do with you bringing up your own discernment in some way. When you look for a sign, you're looking for, where is God showing up in my life? Maybe that's, if you do it well, if you do that with discernment, if you bring love to the question you're considering, if you bring creativity, if you bring connectedness, awareness to the question that you're interrogating, maybe you actually can really get value out of that process. Like, discernment for me is if I'm being creative, I can sense what's creative. If I'm being grounded, I can sense what's grounded. If I'm being loving, I can sense what's loving. Receptive, empowering, these resourceful qualities. When I'm being them, I can sense them. And, I think that a lot of people actually are doing that when they look for signs. So I'm not saying it's a terrible practice. I'm just saying that it might not have anything to do with the circumstances that showed up. It might be that the circumstances are not the message. It might be that we look at the circumstances, how we bring those resourceful qualities that we know in our relationship with God, that maybe that's really what we're getting when we're looking for signs. So just try on that it really isn't the circumstances that are informing you. That it might be that your own being, that your own spirit-supported being, the source-supported qualities, like presence, relatedness, inspiring possibilities, giving yourself space, opening with what's here, and the body. These things are great sources of information that you bring to any inquiry. And maybe that's really what, if there is a benefit in looking for signs, maybe that's really the benefit that's there. It's how do you look? How do we listen? How do we hear? How do we see? How do we feel, touch, smell, taste? Borrow from Melissa Romano. Use all five senses. And interrogate, be in the inquiry, be open with what's here. And, maybe that's the power, really, of looking for signs. Love you all.